بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So inshallah, moving on now, we're discussing متعلقات النصوص. So before I explain to you what متعلقات النصوص is, we are going to have a quick recap. Okay, so what do you have here in this recap? We're saying here, look, we have البحث الأول in كتاب الله, and we discuss words باعتبار الوضع, how they are coined. Okay, so you have خاص, and in khas you have mutlaq and you have muqayyad. So a khas, a word has a known meaning, and it can either refer to an unrestricted member or it can refer to a particular member. It's called muqayyad. So mutlaq and muqayyad. Then we have am, it has a known meaning, but this known meaning has multiple afrad. Correct? And that can either be ghayr makhsus and that can be or makhsus. Fahim? Then you have mushtarak, and then we have mu'awwal. And the mushtarak becomes mu'awwal if you use our own ijtihad. And it's not mentioned here, but a mushtarak can become mufassar if it is mentioned by the mutakallim. The mutakallim explains what is the intended meaning. Okay? Then by i'tibar isti'mal, we know how it's been coined, but how is it being used? It can either be haqiqa or it can be a majaz. So when it's the way it's used, it can either be used in literal meaning, it's called haqiqa, or it's used in a metaphorical meaning called majaz. And how clear that intended meaning is, it can either be sari or it can be kinaya. Everybody following? So far, so good? G. Yes? After that, if you look at it, another aspect we can look at it is, you can look at it from this aspect. We can say, look, you have a word, it is known meaning. If the meaning is known, it becomes what? One known meaning. It's going to be what? Khas. And if it has no restriction to which member it's referring to, is called mutlaq. And if it has, it's muqayyad. If it has a restriction to which word is meant. And if it is am, what happens then? It can either be makhsus or ghayr makhsus. And if it has multiple ma'ana, what's it going to be? Mushtarak or mufassar. Mushtarak, multiple meanings, mufassar or mu'awwal. If it has, it's ghayr ma'lumul ma'na. I did that, I should have updated this. What happens here now? What is this if it's ghayr ma'lumul ma'na? Huh? It's mujmal. And if you have a bayan of it, it becomes what? Mufassar. And if there's no bayan of it, it becomes mutashabih. Correct? And then we can have ghayr ma'lumul ma'na meaning. We know the meaning itself, but we don't know the meaning relative to something else. What's that going to be called? Khafi. We know the meaning, but we don't know if this word applies to this member as well. Like sadiqa and nabash. Like sadiq and nabash. Correct? Achha. Then after that, we look at if it's known meaning, how is it used? Is it used in a mawdu lahu or it's not used in a mawlu lahu? Haqiqa or majaz. So sab'un can be haqiqa, it can be majaz. Kul can be haqiqa, kul can be majaz. And after that, how clear is the meaning? Whether it's haqiqa or majaz meaning, like when you say that, does it understand straight away what is meant? If you do, it's called sari. If you don't understand straight away what is meant, it's called kinaya. Then we have the mutaqabilat. The zahir, the nas, mufassir and muhkam. So zahir and nas, they go together how? This is the clear meaning you understand from the onset. Nas is the meaning you understand from the onset, but it's the purpose of the text, according to some of them. And then mufassir is a meaning has been clarified. And muhkam is not open to abrogation. And khafi and mushkil, they both have ambiguity. Mujmal is unsolvable. These are solvable with context. Fahim? If these become solved with context, it's called what? What's it called? Mu'awwal. If you use context, it's called mu'awwal. And if it's solved via the mutakallim's bayan, it's called what? It becomes mufassar. And if the mujmal is explained, it becomes what? Mufassar as well. And if not explained, it becomes what? Mutashabih. Is that right, everybody? Now what we're doing is, now we're moving on to say, well, okay, we understand the text in front of us, the meaning of text. What we want to analyze is, how are we deriving the information or the ruling from the text? Okay. So, faslun fi muta'alliqat al-nusus. When we say muta'alliqat al-nusus, another way of explaining it is aqsamun nas, the types of texts باعتبار الدلالة على الحكم. How does the text show and denote the intended meaning? Yes? And then you say we have ibaratun nas, we have isharatun nas, we have dalalatun nas, and we have iqtida'un nas. And each one of these will be explained bit by bit. Okay? Let me give you an example here. Okay? Day-to-day example. We have here, switch on the dishwasher after you load it. I said this statement to you. Correct? Now, what do we learn from this text? What can we derive from this text? So the first thing is, there's a command. What's a command? The obvious meaning as well. From the text, straight obviously we understand, okay, the speaker is commanding the mukhatab to load a dishwasher and to switch on a dishwasher. That's clear, isn't it? And how are we deriving that text? How are we deriving that information? From a text. So we're using the actual text. It's called dalalatun nas. Yeah, dalalatul ibara, dalalatul nas. The text is telling us that we've derived this information from the text. Like there's nothing, we're not adding anything in. Okay? It's also commanded them in the order because we said after. So that's also dalalatun nas. Like the text itself tells us that it's a command and it's an order as well. After you load it, you have to load it first, then on the dishwasher. Fahim? Acha. When we say load, it means put on the dishwasher, isn't it? Load it. So load would mean in English what? To fill it up. Achha. We also know there must be a dishwasher in the house, isn't it? So if you say load the dishwasher, switch on the dishwasher, what must there be in the house? A dishwasher. So this is not actually in the text, but it will only make sense. It's called اقتضاء يقتضي اقتضاء. اقتضاء النص. What does اقتضاء النص mean? اقتضاء النص means اقتضاء النص means that the text demands it. Isn't that what it really kind of makes sense? Or you could say not اقتضاء النص. It's probably اشارة النص. It's hinting towards this. Let's not get into that detail right now. But we get it. We also understand this, don't we? We also understand that you have to have dishes in the house. What do you put in the dishwasher? Dishes. We also know this must be dirty because you don't have but clean washing dishes in the dishwasher. It don't have to be, but more than likely. How do dishes get dirty? Huh? With food, because of eating. So now we know there was having food in the house. And then also, when does the dishwasher work? You have to have electricity in the house. You have to have water in the house. You have to have drainage in the house. We get it. So now, but we're deducing different things at different levels. Some things are explicit in the text. Some things are understood from what? From implied meanings. So what we're discussing in this taqsim al-rabi is what level, how are we, which aspects of the text are we deriving from? Are we deriving from something mentioned explicitly? Are we deriving from something understood implicitly? Is this something that has to be assumed for the text to make sense? Do you understand? So this is what we're looking at here. What level or which aspect of the text are we deriving information from? You understand? So the first thing we're looking at is isharatun nas and ibaratun nas. Okay. So amma ibaratun nas. What's ibaratun nas? Ibaratun nas is ma siqa al-kalamu li ajlihi wa urida bihi qasdan, meaning the sarihul kalam, that the explicit, clear objective of the text, and it is intended either explicitly or secondarily, but it's mentioned in the text and it's the purpose of the text. What's that called? Ibaratun nas, meaning the nas, the text itself, yes, tells us that this is the what? This is what meaning has been. The text has been brought to this. As for the isharatun nas, it is ma thabata bi nadhmin nas. The text, the wording in the text tells us this. Min ghayri ziyada, you're not adding anything on. However, wa huwa ghayru zahirin min kulli wajhin wa la siqa al-kalamu li ajlihi. It's not clear totally. When you think about it, you say, yeah, it makes sense. And the text has not been brought for this. Do you understand? You got it? So ibaratun nas is, it is object, the text has been brought for this. So in both of these, we're using the text, the wording in the text. We're using the nazm to derive a meaning. Derive a hukam, huh? Text, nas, nazm, text. Nazam means text. So in both of these examples, isharatun nas and ibaratun nas, in both of these, we're using the text that's in front of us, the mutakallim's text, his wording, to derive a ruling. Fahimt? However, in isharatun nas, is we're using the word, we're not adding anything on extra. But it is not the primary goal or the objective of the text. But it's still using the text to derive a ruling. Do you understand? Look at this example. لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ الَّذِينَ أُخْرِجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ. What's the full verse? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا أَفَاءَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ رَسُولِهِ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْقُرَىٰ. Whichever booty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows upon His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Who is it for? وَلِلَّهِ. So it's for Allah. Now what is it mean by Allah? Is it for Allah is the word Allah mentioned tabarrukan? Or is there a separate share for Allah, meaning you can't give them to Allah, but is there a separate masraf for that? Or what is meant by that? That's not the issue. So it belongs to Allah, His Messenger, the Dhawil Qurba, the Yatama, the Masakeen, the Wabn Sabil. Yes? Now Lil Fuqara, is Lil Fuqara a new category? Is it part of it? Is it a badal? That's different. However, so we know that the Fuqara of the Muhajirin are entitled to what? The fight. What are they entitled to? Fight. Do you understand? The Fuqara of the Muhajirin are entitled to fight. Yes? So far so good? Achha. So the text has been brought. So the Ibaratun Nas. So we're deriving from the Ibaratun Nas, meaning what? The explicit text. What is it from the explicit text? At the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Muhajirun were entitled to the booty, along with Allah's Messenger and the close relatives and the orphans and the poor people and the travelers. Yes? You got it? Achha. However, when we say al-fuqara al-muhajirin, so what does that mean? The muhajirin are what? Are fuqara. So, what if the muhajirin left money in Makkah Mukarramah and the disbelievers just took it over? That's what happened, isn't it? When the Muslims left, that's why the caravan of Abu Sufyan that was going towards towards Sham, when the Muslims attacked it, what was it really? What they had inside? All the wealth that they had gained from all the Muslim Muhajir's houses, all the property and the land, everything, we're taking that, selling it off. Are you following? So let's say they're fuqara. That means that all the property taken, what happened? Who does it belong to? Not the Muhajirun. Because if it belongs to Muhajirun, would they be fuqara? No. So we're saying the text implies, so from the isharatun nas, the wording itself shows it. It's not the goal of the text. The text primarily siyaq is to tell us about who is entitled to the fight. However, from the wording of the text, from the word fuqara, we can deduce isharatan that the muhajirin were fuqara. So therefore, they will only be fuqara if you have no property. That means that their property which was taken away from them, what has it become? It goes to the mushrikun. Even though it's illegal and haram or whatever, it's now theirs. The mulk thabit. فإنه, this verse, الفقراء المهاجرين الذين أخرجوا من ديارهم who have been expelled from Makkah Mukarramah. إنه سيق لبيان استحقاق الغنيمة. This has been brought to explain who is worthy and who is entitled to the ghanima. فصار نصا في ذلك. نصا meaning it's a zahir, it's a nas, and it's ibarat. So from the ibaratun nas. From the ibaratun nas. This is the objective from this ruling that these people are entitled to fight. This is we deduce from the ibaratun nas. Correct? وَقَدْ ثَبَتَ فَقْرُهُمْ بِنَظْمِ النَّص. They being poor is also understood from the text. Why لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ. Do you understand? However, it's not why the text is important. The text is talking about what? Who is entitled to the fight. فَكَانَ إِشَارَةً. This word لِلْفُقَرَاءِ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ is an ishara. It points that istila al-kuffar, ya kafir, ala mad al-muslim, sababun li thubuti milk al-kafir. If the disbelievers grab a hold of the Muslim's wealth, what happens then? And they in the muhajirun, they took the muhajirun's wealth. So the wealth belongs to whom now? The milk becomes thabit. So therefore, if they go and sell it further, you can't then try to undo everything. So look, they've taken it, it was wrong, Allah will deal with them, but it's gone now. Yes, because what happened? Let's say they sold it to another Muslim, and another Muslim consumed it or eat it, or like how are you gonna undo and reverse all the transactions? For him? And how do we know this? إذ لو كانت الأموال باقية. If على ملكهم, if the money was actually their property, لا يثبت فقرهم. They would not have been called poor. You understand? So للفقراء المهاجرين. للفقراء المهاجرين. If you do this i'rab, yes, this would prove that what? The muhajirun are entitled to zakah. That's proven how? How we do proving this? That the muhajirun are entitled to fight ghanima. عبارة النص. And by اشارة النص we're proving what? What are you proving? That the mal of the mal which the disbelievers have taken control over, this has become their property. Do you understand? So based on this, ويخرج منه الحكم في the following things. مسألة الاستيلاء. استيلاء means taking possession of, taking control of. وحكم ثبوت الملك للتاجر. Yes. بالشراء منهم. That if another businessman goes and buys it from the mushrikun, so his milk is thabit, it belongs to him now, because he got nothing to do with it, isn't it? He wouldn't be sinful. He just bought money from somebody. He's bought property from somebody whose milk has been established. It belongs to the tajir. وتصرفاته في من البيع والهبة والإعطاء. If now the tajir, what does the tajir do? The tajir or the kafir, what does he do? He sells it on further, he frees somebody, he gives a gift. All of these things, these transactions are now valid. وحكم ثبوت الاستغنام وثبوت الملك للغازي. What if the Muslims reconquered the land? What happened? What do Muslims do? Reconquer the land. Now, can you do ghanima in that? So now, because it's not the original owner. Yes, maybe the qadi, what he could do is that he could be wise and say, well, try to give the people who, as much as possible which land belongs to whom, give back to them. But it's not like binding, because something is going to be here and there. Yes? وحكم ثبوت الاستغنام. The ghanima being thabit. Yes, if we conquer the land, so when we conquered Mecca, it's not, this land is not Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. We say, well, it's now you can do the Amir al-Mu'mineen, Prophet, he can do sunnah, he can it's like now it's as if they sold it basically. Fahim? Ji. وَإِذْزِ الْمَالِكِ عَنْ إِنْتِزَاعِهِ مِنْ يَدِهِ وَتَفْرِيعَاتِهِ. You can't, the previous owner can't take it away from him again. And all those other rulings that you can derive from this. Does everybody understand? Okay. Moving on. Another example. Allah says, وَكَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ إِلَى قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. What's the full verse? The full verse is this. أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ. It has been made halal for you on the nights of fasting. الرَّفَثُ إِلَى نِسَائِكُمْ. Rafath means a cohabitation. Yes, with your women. Okay? So, throughout the nights of fasting, was permissible intercourse. Then after that, أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. Complete the fast until the night. Okay? So what he's saying here, this is Laylatul Siyam. Nights from here to here. Alright? What does Layla refer to? Every single part of the night is called what? So if it is intercourse, here is halal. Intercourse here is halal. Intercourse here is halal. Intercourse here is halal. If intercourse ends here, or even right here, is that halal? It's halal. But if intercourse ends at a time where he does not have the time to have a ghusl, just right at the ending part, last minute, correct? That's halal or not? أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ. So from the ibaratun nas, we understand that what? Intercourse is permissible the entire night, up to the very last moment. Obviously, you have to take precautions, don't go overgo, etc. But at the last moment, that's ibaratun nas. From the isharatun nas, we're not adding any other words. We can do the what? Janaba. Being in a state of janaba does not break or nullify the fast. Why? Because being able to have intercourse at the very last moment necessitates what? Janaba to the very last moment, and not having enough time to do a ghusl. You following? So therefore, janaba, without being in not causing janaba, not intercourse, But being in a state of janaba, whether it's via a continuation of the janaba from the night or an ihtilam, a wet dream, these two things will not negate the fast. Why? Because if ibaratun nas, we are allowed to have intercourse the entire night, that automatically necessitates that what was permissible was not going to break the fast. Being in janaba in the first part of the morning. Do you understand? Are you following? G. Yes? That's what we're saying here. وَكَذَلِكَ قَوْلُ تَعَالَى فَالْإِمْسَاكِ. Imsak means what? Abstaining from eating, drinking, cohabitation. So we say here, abstaining in fi awwal subh, at the beginning of the morning, yatahaqqaqu al-janaba, can come to pass, can occur. Yes? Can occur ma'al janaba. Can occur with what? In the state of janaba. لأن, because من ضرورة حل المباشرة إلى الصبح, because by allowing or permissibility of mubashara, of intercourse until the morning, necessitates that the first juz of the morning occurs with janaba. And I explained that in the previous thing. والإمساك في ذلك الجزء صوم أمر العبد بإتمامه أفتم الصيام لليل. So you can do rafath ila nisaikum at night, then do itmam of the sawm. Fahim? So imsak in that juz, meaning the first juz, is a sawm. That is what? Sawmun. And we have been told to do what? Come after you have rafath in any part of the night, then do itmam. That means that the fast has started. Fahim? فكان هذا إشارة إلى أن الجنابة لا تنافي الصوم. A janaba cannot negate the fast. If you say, meaning janaba, being in a state of janaba, not causing janaba. وَلَزِمَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Similarly, isharatun nas, we also know what? Madmada and istinshaq cannot negate fast. Why? Because madmada and istinshaq is farad in what? Ghusl. And if you're allowed to be janaba, that means you have to have a ghusl when you are fasting. And fasting has, and ghusl you have to have what? Gargling and istinshaq. So those two can't be negation. Fahim? You understand? So isharatun nas, you can also prove this. Is everybody following so far? وَيَتَفَرَّعُ مِنْهُ. Another masala can derive isharatun nas. That مَنْ ذَاقَ شَيْئًا بِفَمِهِ لَمْ يَفْسُدْ صَوْمُهُ. إِلَّا لَمْ يَفْسُدْ صَوْمُهُ. That if you taste something, it doesn't break your fast. Why? فَإِنَّهُ لَوْ كَانَ الْمَاءُ مَالِيًا. What if the water was slightly salty? And you only had salt water, like beach water. So let's say you live on the beach, on the side of the beach, there's no other fresh water at the moment. And what does the Sharia say? Do you do tayammum or do you do ghusl? Ghusl. So you had intercourse in the last part of the night. Then you're allowed to be in a state of janaba, and the only water you have access to is what? Salt water. Can you use salt water for a bath? So that means that can you not taste the salt? That means the tasting the food is not what? Is it makruh or not? That's another issue altogether. But it is what? Permissible. Is everybody understand? Are you following the isharat nas? So, ulima minhu, from this we learn hukmul ihtilam. Why? Hukmul ihtilam, if you can be in a state of janaba, then ihtilam masla is clear. It was ihtijam, taken out what? Cupping. And iddihan, putting on oil. Why? He says, لأن الكتاب, because the kitab, meaning the Quran says, لما سمي الإمساك اللازم. Yeah. لأن الكتاب So let's look at the verse first again. Allah says, look, so أُهِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةُ الصِّيَامِ الرَّفَثُ إِلَىٰ نِسَائِكُمْ. And this is a jumla mu'tazila in between, yes? Until here, kind of. It's like kind of branching off. Just like, not mu'tazila, but it's like slanting off to another masala regarding women and the jima at night time in Ramadan. That's not that much. But the first masala is, you have to do what? You are allowed to do siyam, rafath until the night. Then you're going to eat and drink. So you're going to do rafath the whole night. You can eat and drink until يَتَبَيِّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ الْفَجْرِ. Then you do itmam of the sawm, which means that abstaining from these three things. Because when it's permissible, until then, that means that after it's not permissible. And then you can eat until this time, which means you can't eat after that time. So the Sharia has said that abstaining from rafath, ak and shurb is called what? itmamu sawm. Do you understand? So now we know, so when the because لأن الكتاب لما سمى يعني لما سمي, when imsak al-lazim, the necessary imsak. What does imsak mean? Abstaining from the haram things. When a necessary imsak has been called sawm, summi al-imsak sawman. How is it called imsak? Via intiha, abstaining from. Via abstaining from the three things mentioned, rafath, akl and shurb, in the beginning parts of the morning. Atimmu siyam al-layl. So not having those three things. Not having those three things is called what? What's it called? Sawm. Ulima anna rukna sawm yatimmu bil intihai anil ashya'i thalatha. The Quran has said what? Don't do rafath, don't do akl, and don't do shurb after yatabayyana lakum al-khayt al-abyad min al-khayt al-aswad min al-fajr. That means that once you do those things, atimmu siyam. That's itmam of sawm. Therefore, ihtilam, we know ihtilam from the masla of the jima'. We also ihtijam and iddihan has got nothing to do with what? Imsak of those three things. So when you say abstaining from these three things, it's called what? Sawm. That means that the other things are iddihan, wouldn't break, putting on oil on your body, wouldn't break the fast. And similarly, what? What else? Doing hijama would not break the fast. Understood? Everybody following? Any questions? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. So let's go back over yesterday's lesson again. It never got recorded yesterday, so we quickly recap again. So we're discussing and we're saying that based on this Quranic verse, we can deduce the ruling of mabit. Mabit is made from the word bata yabitu baytutatan, means to spend the night. And bayyata, to attack at night, to do something at night. So tabyit means to make the niyyah at night. This mas'ala will come in more detail in amar. We do amar and nahi and ma'mul bihi. However, what he's saying here is فَإِنَّ قَصْدَ الْإِتْيَانِ بِالْمَأْمُولِ بِهِ. The ma'mul bihi is the fast. Right? Ityan is to carry out. So the intention of carrying out the ma'mul bihi, which is the fast. So the intention of carrying out the ma'mul bihi, which in this case happens to be the fast. إِنَّمَا يَلْزَمُهُ إِنْدَ تَوَجُّهِ الْأَمْرِ. This only comes about, only becomes binding when the amr and the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes upon the servant. Understood? Then he says, wal amru, the command, i.e. wal amru bis-sawm. The ruling of fasting, the command of fasting only comes about, is only mutawajjih after the juz'ul awwal. لقوله تعالى ثم أتم الصيام إلى الليل. What he's saying here in this verse is that Allah said ثم أتم الصيام, meaning أحل لكم ليلة الصيام الرفث إلى نسائكم. So rafath is permissible during the night time. Then كلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر. And that is the night talking about. Then after the day start, ثم أتم الصيام. So Allah is saying itmam of the sawm. And itmam means after the day, after something has started, what do? Completion. So itmam happens. So itmam will only happen after the first juz. يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ. So it's an اشارة النص. It's in the text. We're using the word أَتَمَّ يُتِمُّ in the whole structure. So اشارة النص, we can say that we can learn the ruling of mabit. That it is not necessary in the month of Ramadan to make niyyah at night time, before subh sadiq, as-subh sadiq. You can make niyyah even after subh sadiq. Why? Because you can only make the intention of doing the action when I told you to do the action. Right now, in your mind, do you have the intention of bringing me water? No. I was like, go get me a bottle of water, please. Yes. Now, after I've commanded you, only then you can have the intention of doing the ma'mul bihi. And the ma'mul bihi is only commanded when atimmu, after the tulul fajr. Right? That's one way of looking at it. And there's other ways of looking at it later on, inshallah. So, isharatun nas, we can tell from the word atimmu siyama ila al-layl that mabit, i.e. mabitu tabyitun niyyah. Doing niyyah at night for Ramadan fast not compulsory. Niyyah can be made during the after as well, as long as before the midday. Acha. The next masla we have is dalalatun nas. What do we have? Dalalatun nas. What does dalalatun nas mean? Dalalatun nas means that there is something in the text is so let's read the text. Let me read the definition and explain it to you, inshallah. وأما دلالة النص فهي ما علم إلة للحكم المنصوص عليه. دلالة النص is that which is known as the illah. It's in the when you know the illah for the mansoos alayh hukam. Okay? And how do you know that? I'll explain this all shortly. It is known via lugha, not via ijtihad and istinbat. Ijtihad means via ijtihad you use lugha, you use the language, you use the text, you use the hadith, you use everything and try to derive something in-depth, deep process, istinbat. You pull out the masala using a very deep analysis. And lughatan means if you know what the word means, translation, you would know what it means. There's no need for deep analysis. Now let me explain all those words to you here. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Do not say uff to them. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. And do not scold them, rebuke them. Talking about your parents. This is called the nas. It's called the nas, or another word for this is called the nazm, the text. So the actual text is this. Then you have al-hukm al-mansoos. What do you have? Al-hukm al-mansoos. The hukam which has been mentioned in the text. What's the hukam in the text that's mentioned? So the hukam which is mentioned in the text is what? Hurma, ya hurmatul ta'fif. Let's use the blue one. It's hurmatul ta'fif. What's the ruling? Hurmatul ta'fif. To say uff. Afa ya uffu? Ta'fif. To say uff. Okay? This is the hukam which has been mentioned directly in the text. What's the mas'ala mentioned in the text? Al-mas'ala al-mansoos is actually al-mas'ala al-mansoos alayha. What's the ruling you mentioned in the first half of the text? The last part is nahr. Is scolding and rebuking and saying uff. That's a mas'ala al-mansoos. It's mentioned in the text. There's a nas upon that hukam. There's a nas upon that mas'ala. There's a nas for that hukam. And the illah, which is ma'loom. How is this illah ma'loom? How do we know it's illah? It's adha. And when you read, do not say uff to them. This illah al-ma'looma lughatan. We know this illah, we understand it from the language, not via ijtihad. There's no need to go have a deep analysis. Why would Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, don't say uff to your parents? What's the reason? It's obvious that this is disrespect, to show disrespect, harm, difficulty, humiliation. This is all understood. You understand? So what we're saying here now, we have a hukam, mansoos, uff. Sorry, we have a mas'ala al-mansoos alayha, which is the ta'fif. The hukam of that is mentioned. And the illah is also known very obviously. Do you understand? Yes? Acha. Now what happens now here, what we're saying here is, based on the mansoos alayha hukm, the mas'ala is mansoos alayha. The illah is known. So therefore we are able to then transfer this hukam, the hukam mansoos, which is what? Hurma. Yes? So this hurma, we can transfer it over to other non-mansoos. For example, what's non-mansoos? Darb, shatn, qatl. Obviously qatl from other nas as well. You get what I'm trying to say? All of these things. Do you understand? So what do we say here now? That the dalalatul nas is that when you know the illah of a hukam, like an obvious qiyas, like so obvious, and I give an example is, even a non-Muslim, if they read that text, they will see, okay, this is what is clearly understanding. For example, there's no need for ijtihad here. If you ask a non-Muslim, I've read the Quran, I've read this verse, do you think Islam allows a person to curse his parents, swear at his parents? He would say no. Because why? Where's the proof? So this is the proof, this is why. But this doesn't say about swearing, it's saying about oof. But even they would understand, obviously, that it's obvious. Fine? Yes? Got it? For example, if I say, don't wear your slippers in the house. Automatic clothes included in here. What's the illah? To get the carpet dirty, so shoes is included, boots are included. Do you understand? It's like the illah is ma'loom lughatan. Like whoever understands the language will understand from this the illah. Another example here is إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَأْكُلُونَ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى ظُلْمًا إِنَّمَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا. Those people who eat, I'm not going to consume, those who eat the wealth of the orphans in a wrong way. Obviously, if you're living together and you use a kitty, let's say you're not well off, you're poor, or you don't have that much money, and the orphan has money. So let's say, for example, it's like 10 people living in the house for him, or let's say 5 people living in the house, or one is an orphan. So say, look, roughly about 20% of the income will be his, or less than, not 20%, let's say about 15%, because the child eat less food. So you say, well, roughly, on my heart, I can say, well, instead of 15% of the weekly expenditure, I'll take from his money. So you spend like £200 a month or £300 a month on groceries. So then 15%, so we'll have £60 we take from him. And if he eats less, he eats more, then obviously you can't calculate every single, how many apples did he eat, how many grapes did he eat, how much water did he drink, how much drink did he drink. So, well, and if it's less and more, that's not dhulm, that's just in ikhwanukum. But dhulman, you just take, well, you take the whole grocery bill on him, and he doesn't have access to the money, he's just spending on his behalf, that's dhulm. So if you do this, يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ نَارًا, you are actually consuming fire in your stomach, meaning مَا يَكُونُ نَارًا. This is majaz mursal bi'tibari مَا يَكُون. This food will actually become stomach. Now anybody who knows the language will say that the hukam is hurma and the mas'ala is aklu. But دلالة النص, we can have لبس يلبس لبسا شربا, yes, to use, to wear the material, to drink the material, to use their money for travel expenses, to use their money for laptops, to use their money for shoe, whatever, to go on something that's not theirs. All of this falls under the same dalatun nas, because anybody who understands this knows that ya'kuluna doesn't mean ya'kuluna is dalatun nas, everything else is included, right? You can also see from Balagha perspective that ya'kuluna is a kinaya and consumption, not necessarily akl, but the dalatun nas is kind of, it overlaps with the kinaya. Does everybody understand this? And he gives an example here. مثاله في قوله تعالى فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا معروفا. قول معروفة؟ نجي. فالعالم بأوضاع اللغة, وضع جمع أوضاع, the coinage, the usage, the way the language is structured and works. Anybody who is aware of the structure of the language, the أوضاع of the language, يفهم بأول السماع, as soon as he hears, the first hearing, he will understand that تحريم التعفيف لدفع الأذى عنهما, that ta'fif, saying uff to your parents, is impermissible because it causes difficulty, harm, hardship, humiliation, disgrace, disrespect, etc. وحكم هذا النوع, what's the hukm of this now? عموم الحكم, the hukm, you transfer the hukm al-mansus alayhi, which has been mentioned in the text, لعموم إلته, wherever illa is found. So the mas'ala al-mansus alayha is ta'fif, and the hukm is hurma. So the hurma of ta'fif is there, but the hurma can also go on to darb and shatn and cursing and swearing and whatever, yes, and nutmegging, playing football. To nutmeg your dog is what? Haram? No? If you're bullying your dad, you can't get him out in cricket. That's why, because if you humiliate him, no? Agree, don't agree? Huh? If you're having a bike race, huh? You don't agree? Yes? Or if you're playing cricket, then they pretend they lose at the end. Yes, but anyway, that's fine. Okay. Yes. So wherever the illa is found, what happens now? The ruling of hurma will carry on. Then we say here, look, وَلِهَذَا الْمَعْنَى, based on this principle, we say قُلْنَا بِتَحْرِيمِ, we say, we are of the opinion of تحريم الضرب. It's haram. It's not even like makruh tahrimi. The makruh tahrimi means it's like one is dhanni aspect. No, it's haram. And if a person rejects the hurma of hitting a parent, he's a kafir because he rejects the Quranic verse. He won't be able to argue because that is qat'i. He won't be able to argue that the Quran only says uf is haram, not darb is haram. So therefore I don't agree that hitting. So no, this is qat'i because there is no doubt in this. Fahim? But tahrim al-darb was shat. Well, istikhdam. Now you can say, well, okay, istikhdam may not be necessarily qat'i, but darb and shat is qat'i. Yes. Well, istikhdam anil ab bisabab ijara, employing your father to use him for personal, like, you know, you have to press my feet, or you have to massage my head, like, you know, or for example, your father's really poor and he's like, he's a cobbler, he mends shoes, and you're going to take your shoes here, mend my shoes, I'll pay you for it. Anything like this we say is haram. To employ that person in any way is not permissible. Yes, if you got business and your father's retired and he just wants something to do, so he said, okay, Dad, come, you're on my payroll, and just come in the office and sit down and just keep yourself busy. There's no ihtaram in the, or here, I give you the CEO post, even though you don't do anything, I'll be deputy CEO and I'll do everything on your behalf. That's fine. But like, where there's tawan. Similarly, well, habsu bisabab ad-dayn. If there's a loan and you can't pay back the loan, the qazi would normally do what? Imprison the person. Said, well, you'll be in prison until you can get the money paid. You, your family, your friends will have to make ends meet and trying to pay back the loan, and then after the whole process is followed. But you can't do that for your father. Similarly, if the father was to kill the son, we would say there's other punishment, but not going to be qisas. Why? Because the father cannot be killed in qisas, capital punishment, because of his son. Just out of keeping the respect between the daraja. Acha. The second hukam we have here is dalalatun nas bi manzilatin nas. That is like clear. It's as if it's mentioned in the text. Hatta sahha ithbatul uquba bi dalalatun nas. We mentioned before when it's uqubat and hudud. When they are uqubat and hudud, Islam drops the hudud and the uqubat with any type of shubha. Yes, that's the thing. When there's a shubha, any doubt, you're not 100% certain, the punishment, the uqubat, drop off. The qazi can determine other punishment and other deterrents, but he can't do the hudud because it's shubha. Right? Like for example, if there's a plague and somebody steals like some food at that time, the qazi will say there's a shubha in, like Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala done it. Like this. Okay, so based on this, قال أصحابنا وجبت الكفارة بالوقاء بالنص وبالأكل والشرب بدلالة النص. Now these two things you have to understand the hadith first. Once in Medina Munawwara, a person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and said to him that, O Prophet of Allah, halaktu, I have perished. I made a huge mistake. Prophet, what did you do? He said, during the month of Ramadan, I cohabited with my wife. We were fasting and we cohabited with my wife and I broke my fast. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam instructed him to do what? Give kafara. And in kafara, there were three options. Free a slave, feed 16 miskina, or fast for 2 months continuously. So he said, well, I can't fast for 1 day without breaking my fast. How am I going to fast for? Two months consecutively, 60 days. That's even worse. For 1 day Ramadan, I cannot control myself, and you got involved in breaking the fast. But 60, what's going to happen? Prophet said, okay, then do the other options. He said, I'm poor. I don't got any money. Yes, but that's another part of the thing. But the story, and then the story goes on, and then when Prophet did get some money, the Prophet said, somebody came with some food. Prophet gave it to him and said, yeah, you distribute this now as a kafara. He goes, I'm the poorest person in Medina. Nobody more poor than me. He just laughed at him and said, okay, you eat, you just use it yourself. That situation was a bit like an abnormal situation, and the Shura explained the meaning and the application of that hadith. But nonetheless, what we say here is, in the mas'ala, what's the mansoos mas'ala regarding jima' and wiqa fi Ramadan? Does the mas'ala talk about eating? About drinking? No. So we're saying, but even though the mas'ala mansoos alayha is what? Breaking the fast via wiqa. It doesn't mention what? Akl and shurb. For him, that we do not have that. This text does not mention what's the ruling regarding breaking the fast via eating or drinking. It only mentions the ruling of breaking a fast via wiqa and jima'. But we say so by ibaratun nas. The text itself tells us the ruling of, the hadith tells us the ruling of breaking. If a person does wiqa in the month of Ramadan, then he has to give kafara. What about if he breaks his fast via akl or via shurb? It's not mentioned. But we say dalalatun nas. Everybody knows that. There's no specialty about breaking it via jima'. He broke it. So we look at it, when we read the text, it's not the kafara that the Prophet put on him was not because of what? Jima' itself, it's because of breaking the fast. But Imam Shafi rahmatullah alayhi disagrees on this. So obviously, then being dalalatun nas, if Imam Shafi rahmatullah didn't understand this, he's alim bi awda'il lugha. But nonetheless, this is our approach. And you can go through all of these and get the main ideas in place. Asha. The third hukam. وَعَلَى اعْتِبَارِ هَذَا الْمَعْنَى. Based on this, قِيل يُدَارُ. دَارَ يَدُورُ دَوَرَانَ means to rotate, to be based upon, to pivot on. So we say يُدَارُ الْحُكْمُ عَلَى تِلْكَ الْعِلَّةِ. The hukam will pivot and depend and rely and be based upon the illah. And in the hasha you have somewhere this in this text, i.e. يوجد حكم النص, the hukam of the nas, the hukam of the nas will be found wherever the illah is found. And wherever the illah is not found, the hukam of the nas will not be found. Even if the nas goes opposed the ruling. For example, he gives an example here. Al-Imam Qadi Abu Zayd al-Dabbusi from the Hanafi Fuqaha, he says, look, hypothetically speaking, what the Quran says, because Dalalatun Nas, right? And Dalalatun Nas, like in many things, why do you have to perform 2 rakats Fajr Salah? What's the illah? You don't know. So we can't say, well, if you don't know the illah, how can we base the ruling on the illah? You may have wisdom. Illah wisdom is very different. It's where people make a mistake and they cause a lot of problems trying to change Islam, trying to modernize Islam. We can say, well, one of the hikmah, one of the benefits is you wake up early in the morning, it's fresh, you get barakah, and then people say, well, based on, when you wake up early, there's even everybody, all the people are productive, and all the productivity books which are so modern. Prophet said a long time ago, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allahumma barik ummati fi bukuriha. There's barakah in the morning. So in the morning after Fajr, the very blessed time. Try to use that time in ibadah, dhikr, tilawa, or even if you're doing business. Start your work early in the morning. This is where Allah will give you lots of barakah for him. But if, right, so we can't say, well, do you know what, now there's more, because, but that's not the illness, that's a hikmah. Where's the wisdom? So if you don't know the wisdom, the hikmah, we can't rotate, we can't depend the ruling on the hikmah, on the illah. We don't know the illah. But if we had dalalatun nas, qat'an, we know the illah. We can add and subtract the hukam based on this, because we know 100% what's being said. So Qazi Abu Zayd al-Dabusi rahmatullah alayhi says, look, hypothetically speaking, if the word uf, a group of people in their language, or in their urf, let's say in another language, there's a word that sounds like uf, and that word uf is a form of respect. Like for example, we say in Urdu, Abba ji. So the word ji is like a respectful word. Abba jan, yes, walid sahib, so the word sahib, etc. Let's say for example, in their language, we say, well, father uf. Let's say hypothetically speaking, the word uf means respect, it means sir, it means honorable. So if this word in their language means honorable or it means respected or something, the ruling is not based on the uf, the ruling is based on the illah. So therefore, if the illah is not found in that word uf, it will not be haram for them. Hypothetically speaking. I don't think anybody is such, but he's just talking to understand the Muslim. لو أن قوم يعدون التعفيف كرامة. If a group of people, a qawm, in their urf, in their lugha, in their language, ta'fif, saying the word uf, or the word uf is a karama, is a way of showing respect. لا يحرم عليهم تأفيف الأبوين. Why? Because the hukam is based upon the illah, because the illah is qat'an. It's not like an ijtihad, it's qat'an. In ijtihad it can be wrong. We say no, keep the nas as it is. But when it's qat'an, what happens then? You just base it on the hukam. And he gives another example. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَكَذَلِكَ قُلْنَا فِي قَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمُعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. Yes, and leave the transactions. Not transaction, we say transaction, but really bay means what? Buying. So how is so the hurma of buying is what? Isharatun is ibaratun nas, correct? Is ibaratun nas. Can you sell? This is thing about selling. Can you rent? Can you wash your car? Can you okay, I'm not selling, I'm just organizing I'm setting up the stocks for after the namaz. I'm just getting everything ready for after salah. So dalalatun nas. We say dalalatun nas, we say everything which leads to delaying and attending salah is thabit in here. Do you understand? So ibaratun nas, the text explicitly mentions the ruling of somebody who is buying. So if you're buying, then you have to stop buying and you have to go first out ila dhikr, you have to hasten to the dhikr of Allah, you hasten towards the Jumu'ah Salah. Is that clear? However, dalalatun nas, we know the illah clearly, that when you're doing bait, when you're doing buying, what are you doing? You're delaying the attendance of Jumu'ah, you're ignoring the dhikr, you're ignoring the adhan. So anything which leads to this is dalalatun nas included. That includes selling, renting, stocking the shelves, labeling price tags, washing your car, sweeping the front of the shop. Everything's included in this. But the illah is what? What's the illah? Qat'i illah? Delay in attending the Jumu'ah Salah. So he says here, so similarly, so ibaratun nas, we know that you can't buy. Dalalatun nas, we know we can't sell, we can't rent, we can't do anything which leads to the delay of Jumu'ah Salah. And because that's the first thing, so that's ibaratun nas, dalalatun nas. And number two, if we were to assume there's a situation where you can do the hukam of bay being haram is based on the illah qat'iyyah. So therefore, where the illah is not found, the hurma is not going to be there. So he says, وَلَوْ فَرَضْنَا, if you were to assume, hypothetically assume, bay'an, a type of bay and a transaction, لَا يَمْنَعُ الْعَاقِدَيْنِ أَنِ السَّعْيِ إِلَى الْجُمُعَةِ, it does not stop, prohibit the person, the two people doing transactions from going to Jum'ah. So the illah is what? You're not going towards Jum'ah, you're delaying and you're going to Jum'ah Salah. But if the illah is not found and the illah is qat'i, can we allow it? So yes, we can allow it. بِأَنْ كَانَ فِي سَفِينَةٍ, both of them are in a ship. And the ship is going towards the masjid. لَا يَكْرَهُ الْبَيْء. And our time, very simple. What are you doing? You're in a car, you're in a train, you're in an Uber, you're walking in the masjid and you're purchasing. Again, we're not talking about adab here. Remember, the books of fiqh are not books of always the books of adab and the books of riqaq and taqwa, etc. It is telling you, what's the mas'ala? It's not haram, obviously. on the Jummah, you on your phone buying or on eBay or Amazon, purchase something. It's not ideal to go to the masjid with khushu and humility and tawajjuh of Allah towards Allah subhanahu wa الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. So we're now moving on and we're discussing one fara or one masla regarding this. Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayh and Tarafain. And so Imam Abu Yusuf on one side and Imam Muhammad and Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayh, they have a difference of opinion regarding one masala here. If you say أعتق أبدك أني بغير شيء, in the previous mas'ala, what did we said? In the previous mas'ala, we said that it was if you أعتق أبدك أني بألف. So اقتضاء النص, what did we necessitate? We said that the bayt is اقتضاء, only way it would work. So it basically, we assume there's a bayt taking place and then we assume there's tawkil taking place. Now, here, if you say أعتق أبدك أني, free your slave on my behalf for free, this will necessitate what? A hiba. Fine. So we say it's a hiba. Imam Abu Yusuf is saying what would happen. We would assume there's a hiba taking place. When the hiba is taking place and after hiba is a tawkil. Basically, I'm saying to you, free your slave on my behalf for nothing. Basically, give your slave to me as a gift, then free on my behalf. You understand? So Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah say the same thing will happen. فَقَالَ, and the other person says, أَعْتَقْتُ, I free him on your behalf. يَقَعُ الْإِتْقُ عَنِ الْآمِرِ, who will be the one freeing? The person who said, free your slave on my behalf. وَيَقُ مُقْتَضِيًا لِلْهِبَةِ وَالتَّوْكِيلِ. Yes, in here we say اقتضاء النص. What do we have? A hiba and we have a wakala. Is that clear? Very similar to the bayt masala. So Imam Abu Yusuf says, this masala and the previous masala, أعتق أبدك أني بألف and بغير شيء, they're both the same thing. Are you following? Everybody online following? However, there's one difference here. In bayt, what's the rukn of the bayt? Ijaban, qabul. When you do ijab and qabul, the bayt becomes tam. When you do ijab and qabul, what happens? The bayt becomes tam. Is that clear? Yes, when you do ijab and qabul, the bayt becomes tam. However, in hiba, what do you have to have? What's the condition? Qabz. In hiba, you have to have qabz of the hiba to become tam. Fahimt? وَلَا يَحْتَاجُ فِيهِ لِلْقَبْضِ. Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi is saying, generally speaking, in a hiba, for a hiba to become tam, what needs to happen? They need to have لا يحتاج فيه إلى القبض. فهمت? Because لأنه بمنزلة القبول في باب البيع. He will say that the same way you have ijab and qabul, you have ijab and qabul. Once qabul is done, what happens? It's finished. So he was going to say that is as if there is qabul. So this thing here, that the qabd is equal to qabul. And is there qabul in the iqtida? The qabul is an iqtida'an. We assume it. So because the qabul becomes anni bi alfin. So the qabul is not sarahatan, is there? And the qabul becomes saqit. We don't say it is needs to be qabul. The qabul is iqtida'an. So based on the bighayri shay'in, this is hiba, or bi alfin becomes a bayt. So qiyasan on the bayt, he will say the same way the qabul is iqtida'an, and we do suqut of the qabul, even though it's a rukn, we'll do suqut of the qabd. So in here, you wouldn't need to take qabda and take possession of the slave. You understand? So just to understand again, if you're doing a bayt, if I say here, I'm selling you this pen for £10, you say I accept. I put the pen here, that bayt is tam. Because what needs to happen? Ijab and qabul. Correct? If I say, I'm giving this is a gift for you, and I put it here, you never took it. Tam. What do you need to do? Take qabda of it. Fahimt? So there's a slight difference here. So Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah alayhi is saying, when we say A'tiq abdaka anni bi alfin, A'tiq, free your slave on my behalf in exchange for 1,000. Then the qabul is iqtida, isn't it? It becomes saqit. It's iqtida'an there, but it's not actually there. So similarly, when you do hiba, A'tiq abdaka anni bi ghayri shay, we'll also allow this, and we will say that the qabul, that we said that the qabd, what happens to the qabd? is iqtida'an there or is saqit, etc. The same way we are a bit lenient and we are a bit loose in the qabul, we be loose in the qabd. Do you understand the masala? Why is it different? However, walakinna, meaning Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Muhammad rahmatullah alayhi, al-qabulu ruknun fi babil bay'. Yes, that in the qabul is a rukn. You have to have ruknan. فإذا أثبتنا البيع اقتضاء أثبتنا القبول ضرورة. We don't say that we suqu isqat of the qabul. We say qabul is there, but it's there how? اقتضاء النص بخلاف القبض. So these two things, two rukn. What's the rukn? Ijab and qabul. Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah is saying that we do suqu or isqat of the qabul. We say no, we're not doing isqat of the qabul. We say qabul is there اقتضاء النص. فهمت؟ أعتق أبدك أني بألف. That necessitates, and he said أعتقت. That necessitates what? إجابة and qabul. Contrary to hiba. فإنه ليس بركن في الهبة ليكون الحكم بالهبة بطريق اقتضاء حكمه بالقبض. We saying here that the qabd is not a rukn. It's a shart. It's not a rukn. So we're not going to do ithbat of it. So therefore, if you say أعتق أبدك أني بغير شيء, you wouldn't do ithbat. You wouldn't become sahih. Are you following? Because why? You can do اقتضاء النص, you can do ithbat of the qabul. فهم؟ ليس بركن. قبل is not a rukn بالهبة. When it's not a rukn hiba, yes, it's not a rukn hiba. ليحكم بالهبة بطريق اقتضاء حكمه بالقبض. We can't say that when you do the hiba, it also necessitates qabd. Because it's not a rukn, it's a shart. You understand? So that's why in this masala, أعتق أبدك أني بي. If you say بألف, is it sahih or not? According to everybody, is sahih. If it's بغير شيء, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Muhammad say, why? Because what's missing? Qabd. And Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullah say iqtida'an, will say what? We'll allow it because of iqtida' isqat of the qabul, we do isqat of the qabd as well. So it's a bit of a fara regarding iqtida'un nas. But the iqtida'un nas is the main thing. That in the bi'alfin iqtida'un nas, you do ithbat of the bay'. And here in qabd there's a bit ikhtilaf regarding from the a'imma. Does everybody understand that masala? Okay. Okay, what's the hukm? Wa hukmul muqtada. Now we say, okay, sometimes we need to say it's not mentioned explicitly. This thing is, however, بطريق الضرورة, meaning we saying حكم المقتضى أنه يثبت بطريق الضرورة, meaning you can't just add in, only add in اقتضاء النص. We say this thing is there اقتضاء النص because it's a ضرورة, it's a need, and we want this, the text would not make sense, so we add in the bare minimum. فهمت? You get it? If something is an excess, you add, is luxury, you add in whatever you want. When it's a zarura, you keep it as it is. Fahim? Like for example, going to toilet is a zarura. You just go to toilet as long as you need to, you get out straight away. You don't spend your time in toilet necessarily. When you're mustar to eat haram food, becomes halal. You only eat how much ever you need to stop from dying. So whenever there's zarura, you just keep the bare minimum. This what's the fiqh rule? Az-zaruratu yataqadriha. Yataqaddaru biqadriha. You only put that much zarura wherever you need. So whatever is mustabit iqtida'an, abit zaruratan. So therefore, yuqaddaru biqadri zarura. We will assume the zarura, whatever zarura you need. Do you understand? Do you get it? Fahim? So the muqtada, whatever is thabit iqtida'un nas is a zarura. So therefore, you keep the bare minimum. Got rule? Now based on this, وَلِهَذَا قُلْنَا إِذَا قَالَ أَنْتِ طَالِقٌ. He says, أنت طالق ونوى به الثلاث. What niyyah does he do? He does niyyah of 3. لا يصح. Why? Because أنت طالق necessitates what? طلاق. To say أنت طالق, she has to be mutallaqa, isn't it? So we say أنت طالق for this. What needs to happen? Needs to be talaq before it. And doing ithbat the talaq. Why is that? How are we doing ithbat the talaq? اقتضاء النص. And اقتضاء النص is a zarura. So how much is the zarura fulfilled by? 1. So you can't do niyyah. أنت طالق. And I meant 3 talaqs. And no, it's only be 1. If you want to give 3 more, give 2 more if you want. But that word أنت طالق would only count as how much? 1. Because the word, this أنت طالق, اقتضاء النص is ithbat of talaq. And the zarura is fulfilled by 1. Q. Why? لأن الطلاق يقدر مذكورا. Because talaq is taqdeer, we say that is muqaddar, we say it's mentioned اقتضاء بطريق الاقتضاء. فيقدر بقدر الضرورة والضرورة ترتفع. The ضرورة is removed بالواحد فيقدر مذكورا في حق الواحد. So we say, well, we say that as if he's mentioned or he said one talaq, that's it. So that the kalam becomes sahih. So أنت طالق to me أنت talaq مقدر, and the talaq is the to do إثبات the talaq is the ضرورة, and the ضرورة is fulfilled by one. So we say there's only one talaq takes place. Does that make sense? Yes? अच्छा, next example. وعلى هذا يخرج الحكم في قوله إن أكلت. If you say, for example, إن أكلت فأنت طالق, يا إن أكلت فعلي صوم, وإن أكلت إن أكلت فأبدي حر. So he says أكلت, إن أكلت. He says, for example, إن أكلت. He says إن أكلت فأبدي حر. If I eat, my servant is free. Now, what's أكلت? أكلت is اسم فعل حرف. فعل لازم فعل متعدي. وكان فعل زي فعل متعدي هذا ايه مفعول به. Now is it mentioned here? So then you have to do what? إثبات اقتضاء, because you have to eat something, isn't it? فهمت? Now if he said, oh, I meant in أكلت, he ate something, now he realized, oh, what? I know I didn't want to do that. So I meant in أكلت برياني. That was my نية. ونوى به طعاما دون طعام لا يصح. He said, I meant this food, not this food. He said, no. He said, in akaltu fa abdi hurrun, he ate something, and it goes to court. Qazi will say, once you ate food, your slave is going to be free. You cannot do niyya ta'aman dun ta'aman, this food, not that food. Why? Because لأن الأكل يقتضي طعاما, because the verb أكل دي is a فعل متعد, therefore it must have a يقتضي طعاما, it must have a مفعول به. Yes? What's the مفعول به? Is it mentioned? But the kalam will only make sense if it has a what? A مفعول به. فكان ذلك أيضا مفعول به وبثابتا بطريق الاقتضاء. فقدر بقدر الضرورة. فكان ذلك, so the مفعول به will be established via اقتضاء النص بقدر الضرورة, how much ever the ضرورة is. والضرورة ترتفع بالفرد المطلق. فرد means any unit, any single member. And is a fard مقيد or متوسط original? مطلق or مقيد? So whatever comes under the word, whatever مفعول به applies to أكلت will be there. Because if you add in other stuff, you're adding more than the أكلت means in أكلت, basically in أكلت معقولا, anything which is considered to be something that was eaten normally, that will fall under this. So if you say, oh, he meant biryani and not barbecue, or barbecue and not biryani, or biryani and not roast chicken. So what you're doing, this is, you make iqtida. The iqtida means there is a zarura, and the zarura is any fard which is counted as a ma'kul. That will be the maf'ul, because we're making it iqtida'an. If kaltu dajajatan, he said it, that's fine, you said it, no problem. But when you do iqtida'an means in akaltu, if I do any fa'l of akal, upon which akal is sadiq, the word akal is used, then in this situation you say, well, you've broken your qasam and your abd will be free. Does that make sense? Anybody following online? ولا تخصيص في الفرد المطلق لأن التخصيص يعتمد العموم. What are you saying here? That ولا تخصيص في الفرد المطلق. When you have a fard mutlaq, meaning one fard, one member of the whole unit. So basically, لا in أكلت, we make a maf'ul bihi, is ma'kulan. In akaltu, it has to be some zaruratan, we mention maf'ul bihi. And any fard which comes under the ma'kul is fine. And you can't do takhsis. You can't say, oh, this food or not that food. Why? Because takhsis only occurs when is what? Umum. You can't do what? You can't do takhsis of a fard mutlaq. But if you say, لو شربت إن شربت قطرة, if I drink a, if you mention drop, qatratan, then you can't say what? I mean this drop from this ocean, not this ocean. Because qatratan is a mutlaq. Any drop, so wherever the word drop of water, qatrata ma'in, wherever the word of, is a khas word, water, wherever the word drop of water occurs, upon that the word will occur. We can't takhsis of it, because takhsis is only for umum. Yes, a fard mutlaq applies to any member. A fard mutlaq meaning a mutlaq, any word that's khas, and it's mutlaq applies to any member. You can't do takhsis. And why is it fard mutlaq? Because we've mentioned this word here. Do you understand? You got it? Yes? G. Example number 6. وَلَوْ قَالَ بَعْدَ الدُّخُولِ. What do you have here? When you're giving talaq, how many talaq are you allowed to give? 3. So if the marriage has been consummated, and consummation means a dukhul, yes? So if marriage has been consummated, the husband can give the wife the 3 talaq. After 3 talaq, she becomes permanently haram. And if marriage has not been consummated, how many talaq can you give? 1. And if it's a slave, the slave can give how many talaq? 1.5. We can't say 1.5, so we say 2. Oh, the minimum is what? So 1 talaq. And if we give full talaq, how much is it going to be for a normal person? 3. So, okay, let's say the woman, she's married. Married not consummated. What's the minimum talaq? What's the maximum talaq? 1. Minimum, maximum, both the same. Marriage is consummated. Minimum talaq? Maximum? 3. Slave. Non-consummated. Minimum? 1. Maximum? 1. Marriage consummated. Minimum? Maximum? 2. Understood? So what? بعد الدخول. After talaq, after dukhul, after they've consummated the marriage, the husband says to the wife, iqtaddi means count, meaning it's a kinaya al-faz for talaq. And now it's become sarih in this bab that iqtaddi means talaq. And he says, wanawa bihi talaq. And so iqtaddi is kinaya, isn't it? It's not sarih. It's a kinaya word for talaq. It's a kinaya. If he made talaq, then what will happen? Wanawa bihi talaq. Yes? If he said to his wife, let's say for example, he's doing a bayan, he's talking to his family, he's talking to his children, his wife, he says, iqtaddi. You know, inna Allah an'ama alayka kathira wa ni'amahu kathira. Iqtaddi. It means, so what does it mean here? Count what? The blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's because kinaya, isn't it? So the context that tells us the meaning here is what? Count the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if he does need of talaq, or the context Allah shows us that the meaning of iqtaddi here is what? Start your iddah, start counting your iddah. So it is niyyah of iqtaddi to mean what? Talaq. فَيَقَعُ الطَّلَاقُ اقتضاءً. We will say here now, talaq is thabit iqtida'an. Why? لأن الاقتداء to count your iddah, when you have to count your iddah? Huh? So if you say iqtaddi, that kalam would only make sense if the talaq took place before it. So يقتضي وجود الطلاق, that would mean talaq took place before it. فَيُقَدَّرُ الطَّلَاقُ مَوْجُودٌ ضَرُورَةً. So we say, well, before that he must have given talaq. And is it, how is the talaq thabit? عبارة النص, اقتضاء النص. Is it zarura or non-zarura? So how much is thabit? The zarura. What is zarura? 1. ولهذا كان الواقع به رجعيا. It be 1 and raj'i. It be 1 plus what? It will be? Because why? Because why is it okay? Why, the question is raj'i and not ba'in? Why is it not ba'in? لأن صفة البينونة, to make it talaq ba'in. So talaq raj'i means you can redo to ruju after the talaq, and ba'in means it's permanently separated. You have to do a new nikah. Because making it ba'in is sifatun za'idatun ala qadri darura. The darura is thabit by what? What is it thabit by? 1 raj'i. To make it more than 1, or to make a sifa za'ida, this is going to be what? More than the zarura. فلا يثبت بطريق الاقتضاء. It will not be thabit اقتضاء. ولا يقع إلا واحد لما ذكرنا. Yes? Because it's thabit iqtida'an, so it's thabit zaruratan, so the minimum is 1 raj'i. Fahim? So that's iqtida'un nas finished in our box. Now it's got one example here. Let's go through this whole text here. حرمت عليكم. So we finished iqtida'un nas, we finished ibaratun nas, isharatun nas, dalatun nas. Here's one example, but there's a few of them. G. Acha. Now حرمت عليكم أمهاتكم. Your mother's haram upon you. What's haram? To look at them? To talk to them? Nikah. So how the word nikah thabit? Iqtida'an. Wa banatukum. So your mother's haram upon you. So marrying your mother. So we say the word marrying is thabit iqtida'an. Your mothers and your daughters and your sisters and your aunts and your khala. Aunts mean your father's sisters, and khalatukum mean your mother's sisters. Now jaddah is jaddah haram. It's not mentioned here. Why is it? Is it halal or haram? Why is it haram? How is it thabit? How is it thabit by ummahat? So mothers and mothers. So we said dalatun nas jadda thabit. Because if the daughter, what about granddaughters? Banat, haqiqa is banat is what? Daughters, but banatul banat? Dalatul nas. Because if the daughters, everybody who understands it, that means here, your asal and your fara. So if your mother is haram upon you, automatically grandmother is haram upon you as well. If your daughter is haram upon you, your granddaughter is haram upon you as well. Do you understand? So this is what? This is this. Okay? وَبَنَاتُ الْأَخْ وَأُمَّهَاتُكُمُ اللَّاتِي أَرْضَعْنَكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُم مِّنَ الرَّضَاعَةِ. Yes? So now we got here, your mothers who done what? The mothers who breastfed you, and your sisters from Radha'a. So now sisters from Radha'a, what does that mean? That you and that sister drank from the same mother, milk from the same mother. Yes? So we say here, well, if the mother is there, the akhawat is there, and isharat al-nas, the khala is also going to be, I think. So this is one example that we given. So we got a few situation scenarios in this. Once we finish Amr, we'll go through more examples, inshallah. So this is one example in some books. Like here you get 3 examples. And Ibarat al-Nas is, what's Ibarat al-Nas? All the mother mentioned. So the Ibarat al-Nas is mother being haram, the banat being haram, the akhwat being haram, the ammat being haram. That's no need to mention Ibarat al-Nas because I already mentioned there. But iqtida'u al-Nas, nikah is haram, not this. The mother's haram, the nikah, marrying the mother's haram. And then jaddad dalat al-Nas, and some say ummahatukum allati arda'nakum wa akhawatukum min ar-rada'a. Isharat al-Nas. We would say here that the rada'a is a illa. So therefore your khala from radha is also impermissible. Fahimd? So these are some examples of this topic, inshallah. So now we finish Ibarat al-Nas, Isharat al-Nas, Dalat al-Nas, and Iqtida'u al-Nas. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.